What's that? Right. Let me get Will. Good evening and welcome to our study session of May 22nd. We've got a lot of great folks here, so let's jump right into this. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Clerk, please take the roll.
Mayor Hartke,
Present.
Vice Mayor Orlando,
Here.
Councilmember Encinas,
Here.
Councilmember Ellis,
Here.
Councilmember Stewart,
Here.
Councilmember Harris,
Here.
Councilmember Poston.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Very good. For our scheduled public appearances, Councilmember Stewart, you're up to join me up front.
You leave your wallet here. You leave your wallet over here.
Well, that was quite an entrance. We want to thank you for that patriotic medley. This group of talented musicians is called the Basha Bear Regiment. There are about 80 students total who put in thousands of hours playing shows across Chandler and the Valley. And this year they competed statewide, turning to bring home the state championship for the Arizona Band and Orchestra Directors Association. And in December, they will travel to Honolulu to perform in the historic Pearl Harbor Memorial Parade. Congratulations, Basha. And we have a certificate of recognition. Great. Anyone would like to say anything from Basha?
Absolutely, yeah. Just wanted to thank the city of Chandler and the community for all your support. The students work so hard, but we couldn't do this without the parents and without those of you that are there, painting and volunteering and doing all that you do. So thank you so much, from us to you. We really appreciate everything you do for us.
Well, we're going to take a picture, but congratulations, Bashas, on your sports, your music, your many other accomplishments that Basha is becoming and is renowned to know. So, all right, Jennifer, show us how to take this picture. All right, make room for me right here. There we go.
Yeah, so can the drum come on this side? Can the drum come on this side? All right, got it.
Thank you, Basha. That was a trumpet player. Yeah. All right. Councilmember Stewart was a big bassoon. No, he was a big baritone. Next up, we have the Chandler Fire Department Life Saving Awards. We have Chief Dwiggins and Carlos Vargas. If you would please join us.
evening, Mayor and members of the council. I would like to call up Principal Marianne Lozano, Officer Megan Fritz, Police Chief Sean Duggan, and Superintendent Frank Narducci. All right. Tonight, we are honored to award 2 life-saving awards to Principal Marianne Rosanico of Santan Junior High and Officer Megan Fritz of the Chandler Fire Department. Police Department. We want her. On March 28th, Mr. Jeff Evans was running on the treadmill when he collapsed and went unconscious. Principal Rosanico noticed that Mr. Evans was lying on the ground unconscious and checked for a pulse. Unable to find a pulse, she immediately called 911 and started CPR. Moments later, Officer Megan Fritz arrived on scene with an AED. She hooked up the AED to Mr. Evans' chest and delivered a shock. She then took over CPR and continued until paramedics arrived on scene. Because of the actions of Principal Marianne Rosanico and Officer Megan Fritz, Mr. Evans is alive and well today. Mr. Evans, could you come up and assist us in presenting these awards? On behalf of the City of Chandler and the Chandler Fire Department, we are honored to present both of you with the Life-Saving Award. Thank you. Thank you.
I need 1 minute.
Sure.
So I got these challenge coins. I wanted to give them to the officers that came to my house that night. I put the engraving on there that says, Jay Evans thanks you. And the date that you saved my life. I know the other gentleman is not here. If you could pass that on to him, I would appreciate it.
I will do that. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one more. I'd like to call up Staff Sergeant O'Brien Benally and members of the United States Marine Corps.
Thank you. Fair pal.
All right, tonight we are honored to recognize Staff Sergeant O'Brien Benally of the United States Marine Corps for his actions in saving life. On March 25th, Sergeant Benally noticed smoke coming from the bottom of his neighbor's apartment door. Sergeant Benally opened the door to find thick black smoke coming from the ceiling down to the floor. Disregarding his own safety, Sergeant Benally made the decision to enter the apartment and search for any potential fire victims. During the search, Sergeant Benally found one victim lying on the floor who was clearly unconscious and unable to escape due to the heavy smoke. Sergeant Benally grabbed the victim, pulled her out of the apartment, and put her in a safe spot until fire department units could arrive. Because of his courageous actions, a life was saved that night. Will the Leclerc family please assist us in presenting this award? On behalf of the City of Chandler and the Chandler Fire Department, we are honored to present Staff Sergeant O'Brien Benally with the Life Saving Award. Thank you.
All right. We're having a proclamation, the centennial year for the Lions Club International. If I could have District Governor-elect Farhana Shifa, and the presidents and officers of Sun Lakes Breakfast, Chandler Sunbird, and Chandler Lions. Whereas the year 2023 marks the 100th anniversary year of the chartering of Lions clubs in Arizona, and whereas the members of Arizona Lions clubs have been active volunteers dedicated to serving those in need in our community in numerous humanitarian and philanthropic projects in April 1923, and whereas the Lions Club International membership is open to people regardless of ethnic identity, religion, physical ability, gender, or political preference, with a mission statement to empower volunteers to serve their communities, meet humanitarian needs, encourage peace, and promote international understanding through Lions clubs. Whereas the Arizona Lions Club members share with all other Lions Club members the same international motto of "We Serve," which inspires members to provide humanitarian service locally and globally to maintain high ethical standards. And whereas through its many initiatives, the Lions Club International and Chandler Sun Lakes clubs members, 4 active Lions clubs in Chandler, Sun Lakes area, and many other Lions residing in Chandler, along with their fellow 3,000 plus Lions in Arizona and 1.4 million Lions in 210 countries and 49,000 clubs worldwide, make a difference every day when we value what they're doing. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Kevin Hartke of the City of Chandler, Arizona, do hereby proclaim and recognize 2023 as Centennial Year for Arizona Lions Club International. Hannah.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, and also Vice Mayor, and the rest of the council, because you have been a big supporter of the Lions Initiative for years. I will tell you a quick story. 5 o'clock in the morning, at the m- charge of Mayor Kevin Harkey, he would come over there, help the lion to set up the table, take the food and delivery, everything set up. He will make the coffee for the volunteer, and it's still dark, and he will serve with us. So that kind of Lions we have in Arizona, in Chandler. They have been giving towards the community, and worldwide, we're the first one to go to any humanitarian needs and last one to leave. So I invite you to know about us and join us. More giving hands and hearts will make the life more merrier for all. Thank you, Council and the Mayor, for this honor.
And could all of the Lions in our audience please stand? All right, let's do a photo. Oh, come on up, everybody.
And also, as an appreciation of token, our Lions wants to give the council members the 100-year pins.
We're just closer together. That concludes our upfront presentations. I've got two of them. Yeah, I don't need three of them. We also have one scheduled appearance of a speaker who has concerns regarding our police response. Would Mr. Kaufner come up? Mr. Mr. Joshua Kaufner? Not here. Okay. Thank you. That moves on to our consent agenda. We've got 4 items that have been called in, and with item number 4, we have 2 people that asked if they could speak. They're unable to be here on Thursday. So let's first turn this over to you, Vice Mayor, but I will invite them to come up. So,
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. Just a couple of questions from staff here.
so Jason Crampton?
Thanks, Mayor. Jason, just a couple of things. I know there was a lot on the neighborhood meeting. There's a lot of comments, but some of the prevailing comments there was the type of surface area. I know some of the bikers like the hard surface, their joggers like the gravel. We have plans of somehow figuring this out to make it half and half, or so that there's ability to do both.
Yeah, through the mayor, Vice Mayor Orlando. Uh, the path, that is the concept that was developed for the 15% plans. The path width would be 10 feet of concrete, and then next to that, there would be another roughly 10 feet or so of dirt that could remain free for walkers and runner joggers.
Excellent. Good. I think that's makes a lot of sense. I appreciate that. And I know the other thing was the crossing. Have we decided that we're going to enhance that crossing, correct?
Yes, through the mayor, Vice Mayor Orlando. So the crossing at Ray Road you're referring to?
Right.
Yeah, the concept plans called for a traffic signal crossing there, although, again, those are very initial 15% plans that will be further analyzed during the design as well. There will be additional public outreach to see what the best solution will be. And it could be that, or we could come up with an alternative crossing. The key is we need to have a safe crossing of Ray Road, and that could take a number of forms.
I think it's a Kyrene and Knox, or is it Ray Road and Knox?
Yes, there's another crossing at Kyrene and Knox,
Right.
and that will actually be in the city of Tempe, just north of our borders, but
Okay.
we'll work with the city of Tempe
You'll work
to develop a safe crossing there as well.
Perfect, appreciate it. And that's the final one, and I think it came up again as far as in our discussion with city manager this week, is somehow ensuring that vehicles won't be able to access that. Now, obviously, potentially, we may have a fire vehicle that needs to get in there, so we'll have to figure out how to make some kind of barrier or something.
Yeah, through the mayor, Vice Mayor Orlando, that's definitely been a concern that's been brought up by the neighbors. And we can work with the SRP to install gates that would restrict vehicular access. SRP maintenance vehicles would continue to need access. The city would be provided access to that as well, but it would keep out unauthorized vehicles out of that area.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Mayor.
So Jason and SRP has agreed to do that in order to keep pickup trucks or others, but SRP and the city can still access it, but they have agreed to do that?
Through the mayor, mayor. So they have they have not formally agreed, but we've had discussions with them, and initially they are agreeable to the concept. We just need to come up with full plans that incorporate those gates, and then we can develop an agreement.
Okay. Councilmember Ellis.
Thank you, Jason. Can you? I know that we're in the planning phase right now, and input is very important for us, for our neighborhoods, and those who are involved right now. Are we really considering making sure that they're at the table? I know you guys are going beyond the duties to make sure that everybody is notified and everything, but specifically those who have raised some questions about that. Is that the case, right?
Yeah, through the mayor, Councilmember Ellis, appreciate the question, the comments. Yes, this will definitely be a key consideration during design. We completed the preliminary design, which is an extra step that this project undertook, which we were able to get an early jump start on public outreach, but public outreach will definitely be a key component of the design moving forward.
Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you. It was interesting. Councilmember or Vice Mayor Orlando brought up a really good point about making sure that vehicles can't get on there. I know that's a problem, so hopefully that will happen with SRP. But do we have any paths? I lived by the canal for a little while and loved walking on the path, and paved path as a walker. I've never heard that about the joggers wanting it to be the dusty rock, but I guess it makes sense. Have we done that anywhere before? Is it practical to do that?
Yeah, through the mayor, Councilmember Stewart. They're definitely with most of our paths. There's a little area between the canal and the path, or on the other side of the paved path for joggers to use. So it's certainly an option, and yeah, joggers do tend to like that surface better. And there is a concern that there's that conflict between a fast moving bike and a walker, that sometimes they like to be separated from that.
And just follow up, is there enough clearance, 10 feet, for bikes to pass one another? Because that is the only thing I thought of, was like they're humming through there pretty good, especially at night with their little lights on. And
yeah,
that's safe.
And that's the kind of the design minimum. It's typically
Okay.
10 to 12 feet is the width that we like for these paths, but 10 feet provides that passing distance.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jason. I'm going to invite our two speakers if they would like to come up. First is Linda Calif. Linda, you have up to 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record. When the light turns yellow, you'll have 30 seconds left, so please try to wrap.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members and staff. My name is Linda Califf, and I live at 1133 North Roosevelt Avenue. My husband and I live along the Kyrene Canal path in Tuscany, right near the bridge on Roosevelt. We have lived there for 5 years and have seen an increase in unauthorized vehicular activity along the canal. We realize that the signs are posted stating motor vehicle use by SRP permit only. However, many people do not obey the signs. And we have sent multiple videos to Jason Crampton and Sasha Pachito with the city of Chandler and Brianna McHenry with SRP regarding multiple vehicle violations. So my questions to you is, have you had a chance to review those videos? Any of the council members or mayor? Okay, if not, I would suggest if you do have the opportunity to review them because we've sent about 50 different videos, and that's just in the last few months that include motorcycles, motorized bicycles, pickup trucks, landscapers and their trailers, regular cars, golf carts, you name it, we've seen it. And most recently, we submitted a video last night, an email with several videos, I should say. And there was this one in particular black SUV that was actually speeding down the canal. I mean, it was unbelievable how fast it was going, easily 25 to 30 miles an hour down the canal. And dust was raising up behind the vehicle, all that. So you could see that that would be considerable consideration to have some type of vehicular gates there so that we don't have any harm of anyone that might be walking along the canal there. And I'm not sure if you've all had a chance to physically walk along the Kyrene Canal path or if you've had a chance to look at the canal's lack of sanitation, but those are things that we'd want you to consider. Who would be responsible for keeping the path and the canal clean? If you've walked along the canal, you've probably noticed the pet droppings. So that's also a problem. And I know that's been mentioned in previous city council meetings that many of the Chandler intersections, especially at Ray and Kyrene, are not safe. We've seen multiple accidents on a regular basis at that particular intersection. So we don't need vehicles taking shortcuts cuts along the canal path, causing havoc to our community. So coordinating with SRP to install gates or other physical barriers to restrict vehicular access is of critical importance. Mr. Mayor, council members, if you're deeply concerned about the safety of our community and the canal path users, as a citizen and resident along the Kyrene Canal path, we're hoping that you support the installation of vehicular gates at both entrances on Ray and at Kyrene and other descriptive signage to prohibit violators and trespassers from encroaching on our private property.
Thank you, Linda.
Yes, thank you so much for your time and for your service.
And I think, as was previous stated, we do support that, and we look forward to making sure that that works. And I apologize for mispronouncing your last name. Next, we have Marin, and I'm going to really butcher this. I'm sorry, Marin Martinad Theory. I
knew it.
apologize in advance.
No worries, you are not the first one.
Yeah. And again, sir, state your name and address. You have up to 3 minutes to share.
I am Thierry Marin Martineau. I live in the 1132 North Roosevelt Avenue. I am aerospace engineer, expert in electrical system, and I have spent my life taking care about safety. And I hope you will appreciate that in every plane you have part of my design. So you will appreciate that. So my main point, first, we embrace the project, encouraging people to walk, to have a healthy life. That's a great idea. But you have to take into account the safety, and I think you have understood that. You can't encourage a project where you may authorize or allow pedestrian, kids, old people on the same path, same way, then you will have motorized vehicles, whether they are electrical or thermal engine. So my main concern is the safety. You have to develop a system which protects the life of our community. So that's it. I will make it short. After we have, I think Linda did a great job. There is other consideration. If you can take all of them, that's great. But the main one is the security.
Thank you, sir. Council, any other comments on this, or we'll move to item 10?
I did.
Councilmember Ellis.
Josh.
Harris.
Got him again.
You got me.
Josh, on that pathway, it's going to be well lit as well because he mentioned security. Can you just talk about some of the things that we use to divert to make it more secure and for the pathway?
Yeah,
Jason, would that be you, or
would
you
that
got it, Josh?
Doesn't matter. Yeah, do you want to answer lighting? Go ahead.
Come on, Jason. Yeah, we wanted you back up here.
Yeah, through the mayor, Councilmember Harris. Yeah, great point. We do intend to do some lighting analysis, add lighting to the path to increase safety. Of course, working with the residents, the neighbors, to make sure we shield all the lighting so we don't create any unwanted light pollution as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Next item called in, item number 10, Councilmember Harris had some question for Chief Duggan.
All right. Thanks, Chief, thanks for being here. Can you just tell us what we're doing here for this particular item that's on the agenda, please?
Sure. This is a request to agree to a memorandum of understanding, MOU, with the Chandler Unified School District for the police department's 911 emergency communication center to access real-time any of the nearly 2,000 cameras that the school district has among their 35 campuses throughout the city. That would enable our dispatchers to provide critical information for responding officers to those true emergencies, with the description of the suspect or suspects, but most importantly, the location. And in these emergencies, time is everything. So the quicker our officers can engage that threat and stop it or mitigate it, that's the best possible outcome. So these cameras will play a pivotal role providing that real-time information to our responding officers.
Thank you, Chief. I thought that this was good because, again, this is another way that we're being proactive. If there is an emergency, no matter what the emergency is, we know in real time, as you just described, what it is. But I just wanted to say thank you for bringing this forward, and thank you for keeping us safe and doing what you're doing. And I hope to see more interactions and IGAs with other schools and other facilities that have massive camera usage, so we can also be ready to respond to emergency if needed. So thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
And Chief, I know the answer, but I just want, and you know the answer, but I just want you to say it. So in case anyone watching has any questions, again, this is not, we don't have access to the cameras except when the school would want us to, if there is an active situation that would allow us to triage and move appropriately, correct?
That's correct. These cameras are owned and operated by the school district, and they give us permission every time we would access them.
Great. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chief.
Next item up, Councilmember Orlando, a question about water main replacement, item number 11. I think John Knutson. Before he asks this, I have one question. John, you were a marching band dad for many years. Did you ever get to go to Hawaii?
No.
This will be your chance.
All right, all right.
They're looking for chaperones.
That's right.
No, that's what I said. This will be your
You're older and wiser now. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. So John, you and I had a little conversation this morning. This is a unique area of Chandler, in the older parts of Chandler, where, and that was the disconnect I have as I was reading the memos, is these are water mains, most of them are water mains in the back of or in the alleyways, correct?
Yes, through the mayor, Vice Mayor Orlando. As we move through our prioritized water main replacements throughout the city, the next ones on the list are in the area of Chandler Boulevard, Alma School, in that area. And in those neighborhoods in the day, they would build water, sewer, and essentially all utilities would run down the alleys. And so as the water mains age and we need to replace those, it's virtually impossible for us to reinstall the water mains in the alleys because of all the other utility obstructions. So it's been our practice to move those pipelines from the alleys out to the city streets on the other side of the home, so to the front side of the home. And it is typically difficult because oftentimes it requires us, well, every time, it requires us to run the service line then from the front of the house where the new main is, around the house, and then back and plug it back into where the water service was originally. And so they're time consuming. They involve a lot of community outreach, a lot of coordination with property owners. And so it's a difficult project, but in the end, what we have is a new water main that'll be in place for hopefully 75 to 100 years. The streets get redone and everything goes back to normal.
And obviously that's why you need the permission of the property owners, as well as potentially buying an easement if necessary.
In these types of projects, in the design process, oftentimes with many projects that we have, we might uncover a piece of land that is fee ownership in the right of way. That is kind of a straggling piece that wasn't purchased years ago. So we at times have to pick up that piece in the right of way and purchase that. We also have right of entries that have to be done and signed with every single property owner as we go through. So there's an awful lot of real estate work that needs to be done along with these projects. As I said, right of entries, often easements, some property purchases where the pipeline is needed. It might be, as I said, just a small sliver of property along the way that comes along during the design process. And so this memo in front of you this evening is just to give us the authority to act on those as they come up during the project.
Okay, one of the residents asked me earlier today is, how come we can't just attach, which was a good question, by the way, and I didn't think about it, but I figured you have a good answer for it. How come we just can't attach to the new pipeline to the front of the house and then tap off the original cut?
Well, that would be a great thing to do, except it would require replumbing of the entire house because all your plumbing emanates from a single spot in the home. So there's a manifold coming into your home. That's where the pipe plugs in. And if you wanted to do it differently, that would actually require work inside the home to physically replumb. And, that would be a whole different project.
Got it.
At least with this project, we're just rerunning a pipeline around the outside of the home and plugging it into its original place. But to do it differently would require replumbing of the home in
Got
some
it.
fashion.
That was good answer. I knew you'd have one. I'll get back with our residents, say, John saved you $5,000.
Right.
All right. Thank you, Mayor.
Any additional questions on this item? All right, thank you. And our last item called in also by Vice Mayor Lando, item number 19, having to do with contracts and agreements administratively approved.
Yeah, Mayor, I got my answer today. It was, even though it was the same contractor, it was two separate statement of works. That's why it was divided up the way it was divided up, because it looked like it was just one large thing divided, but I got my answer on that, so.
Okay, thank you. Council, on Thursday, we have one action item, which is adopting the fiscal year budget, tentative budget, a public hearing, an action item, but also tonight we have a briefing and discussion brought forth by Councilmember Poston having to do with group homes and recent actions by the state, Arizona in response to fraudulent Arizona health care cost containment systems, AHCCCS claims. Leah Paul.
Thank you. 1 second here to get the PowerPoint going. All right. Everyone see that okay? Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having me here. Thank you, Councilmember Poston, for asking for information. I am sure that all of you have seen in the news over the last, really over a little bit over a week now, a continuing story that develops every single day, and literally the information changes on a daily basis. And so I wanted to just provide you a little bit of information on what the city is doing with this particular situation. So officially on May 17th, Governor Hobbs did release information, held a press conference regarding the situation with sober living homes in particular. What has been really, it's been an investigation that's been going on since 2019 and has to do with fraudulent billing, primarily for sober living homes. And really as early as January of 2020, the FBI became involved in this and started investigating. Some of the catalysts for that was missing individuals from Native American populations from different reservations. The stories are that there were bands that picked up people in Farmington and Gallup, up near Window Rock, Tuba City, brought them into Phoenix, put them into what were deemed as sober living homes, and started billing for treatments. Some of the people have been missing literally from their families. And everyone that's involved in this situation seems to have been enrolled in the American Indian Health Plan, which is billed to Access. And it is a fee-based plan, which rather than a managed plan, which was part of what allowed the fraudulent activity to occur. So this is, like, as I said, this has been an investigation that's going on since 2019 and continues to go on today. In Chandler, we do have group homes, as you are aware. A group home is listed as a residence that has the 5 unrelated individuals. We have different categories. We have our group homes and our residential care homes for people with disabilities. We do have a registration process here in Chandler. There is a maximum occupancy limit. And for homes that wish to go over that maximum occupancy, or if there's also a distance restriction of 1,200 feet, there is an administrative process for a waiver. There's a committee that looks at that process. It includes the police department, the fire department, code enforcement, of course, planning and development, many different divisions that are taking a look at that process and at those waivers. These homes may or may not be licensed by the state or another entity, and I think that's an important point. In Chandler, we have 276 group homes, and we have 20 that we're aware of that are deemed as sober living homes, and these are homes that are registered as sober living homes in Chandler. So where are we today? Well, we began receiving information on this directly from the governor's office and Solari, who has been contracted to be the first responder or the first intervention in this situation. We received information about a little bit over a week ago. Immediately, we started researching what we were able to find, looking in our own database, and then the list of 102 agencies that have had their license either terminated or suspended was released. Once we got that list, we continued to research those specific names. We believe there are about a half a dozen associated homes in Chandler. So the navigation team, our homeless navigation team, has been brought up to speed. They are out monitoring on a daily basis. This is a homeless crisis situation. These are people who were experiencing homelessness for the most part and could be experiencing homelessness again because of homes closing down. We know that, again, Solari has been contracted as that first line of intervention. They have about 250 hotel rooms they've been able to secure across the valley to be able to put people into homes. And it looks like so far they've put about 85 people into the hotels, about 85 people into the hotels. Community Bridges is also contracted to go ahead and have services that are provided with the people that are being put into the hotel rooms. So our navigation team is doing what they do on a daily basis. They're out on the streets looking for people who are experiencing homelessness. We are continuing to monitor the homes that we are suspecting might be part of this, and to see if we have any individuals that become experiencing homelessness because of it. To date, we've only had interaction with one individual, and that actually was this morning. And we will just continue to monitor as information comes out. Of course, we will work, as we do really on a daily basis, with our police department, and our police department calls us when they find people experiencing homelessness. We certainly will be working with planning and development as far as the group homes themselves are concerned, and just continue to really be there to provide humanitarian aid should anyone in Chandler be impacted. We are having contact with Solari on a regular basis, and Solari will call us if there are Chandler residents that are impacted as well. And with that, I will entertain any questions.
First, Councilmember Poston, questions or comments?
Leah, one, I just want to say thank you for taking this on. I know this is a large project that got dumped in your lap a little bit. You didn't have a whole lot of control, and the city only has so much purview over the group homes. And could you speak a little bit to, and thank you for all the conversations we've had. We've talked about the idea that there are a lot of layers to this. There are a lot of organizations involved, and there's only so much communication that you're getting about where these homes are and whether these people have been released. So one, thank you. And could you talk a little bit about the fact that, this didn't just happen last week and it's done by this week. This will probably be going on for a while, as well as the idea that, how many people do we think that we have here versus other parts of the valley? Or how many of these homes here versus other parts of the valley? Because I don't want to scare people. I know that we don't have a lot of them here, compared to maybe the west side of the valley, but it's still an issue. And these are people that are part of our community. And then finally, the transportation issue. I know that, we may need to be providing transportation, or someone may need to provide transportation, because many of these people are very, very far from their homes and their families.
Yes.
Sorry, that's a lot of questions.
No,
We can go one at a time if you need to.
Excuse me. Through the mayor, Councilmember Poston. Yes, as you said, this is a developing story and we're getting new information all of the time. Based on the research that we have done, We found that there are layers upon layers of LLCs that are involved in the ownership of the homes, and that's part of the reason why it's been difficult to identify for sure some of the homes. And there may be more than a half a dozen. We're just not sure, but we continue as we find names of companies or names of owners to try to research that. We will absolutely, if we come across someone, do the first thing we will try to do is connect them to appropriate services and reconnect, reunify if that's appropriate with family members. The Navajo Nation in particular has a crisis team set up, and they will do transportation back to any member of the Navajo Nation community. We certainly would work with other reservations, and we do serve clientele that come from other reservations into Chandler from time to time. We have relationships with some of the surrounding areas because we do serve people who end up moving to Chandler from reservations, but their services may still be tied to the reservation. So we have familiarity with that, and we'll continue to try to reunite people with, again, whether it's services or family or whatever is most appropriate. If we are in the need of assisting with transportation, that's where we use our change-up funds. Those are funds that we are able to do a bus ticket or whatever it might be to get somebody back to wherever they came from. We always, though, we will always make sure that we know where the person's going. It is confirmed that they have a place to live. We would never want to transport someone to somewhere else and find them homeless in their new situation. So we always make sure that we have confirmed location for them to live, a living situation for them to go to, if that happens. What we have heard is, there's over 100 agencies that are on the list. We know that it's over 100 homes easily. We've heard the estimates it could be people in the thousands of people that are impacted by this. It will continue to go on for a long time. The investigations are continuing. There's a full audit that will be taking place of all the billing since 2019, so I imagine that will take some time. And it'll just be something that we will continue to monitor as it plays out for probably months.
Thank you. And then Chandler does have a registration process. Are we finding that these homes are registered or not? And if not, then what happens?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Poston, the ones that we've identified, we have not found that they are registered with the city. As we would do with any home-based business that is not registered through the city, we have a process where we would send an inspector out and we will go through our normal process in that situation.
Okay. Well, thank you. And I don't want to give the impression that, we have plenty of group homes out there doing good work, helping the residents in our community. There are just a couple of bad actors. And I just want to commend you and your navigator team for doing what you do. If you didn't have that team in place, I'm sure we wouldn't have been able to react so quickly. So I really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
And thank you. And I have to thank the mayor and council for the support you've given us on having the navigation team, because you are absolutely right. It's because we had such a robust team in place that we could respond so quickly. So thank you for that.
Councilmember Ellis.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to make sure that people understand as they're listening to this that there are different categories of home. You superficially mentioned them, but the assisted living homes are totally different than the suburban living homes. Those assisted living homes, which I had owned 19 of them. Those are licensed by the state of Arizona and the Department of Health Services, and they are monitored by that department on a yearly basis to keep their license. And they are obligated to register in the city that they are in because they need to have fire code, they need to have all of the things. The question that I have at this time for you, I know that this is throughout Arizona. It has been happening. Specifically, I just sat down with a council member of Avondale. They are seeing a lot of issues in their own city. I did not realize that Chandler had 12 of them at this point, because I do know some suburb living here in Chandler that are registered also with the city, and they are doing an amazing job. And know a lot of people that have gone through there. How many do we have that are registered compared to the ones that are not registered?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Ellis, you are exactly right. There are different types of homes, and in particular, this investigation seems to be centered on the sober living homes. There are 20 that are currently registered with the city of Chandler. We have identified at least 6 and possibly a 7th home that are associated with the fraudulent cases, and none of those are registered with the city of Chandler.
Okay, appreciate that. It's important for us to know. Again, because of my background with behavioral health, I understand the fact that once those people are picked up from the reservation and they are brought into those homes, what's been happening, there are no care plan for them. And I think from the beginning in 2019 when this was happening, I was in the front of it. I didn't know that you needed to be involved or anything like that, but I had been in front of it because I had sat down to work with some of the people that are doing the investigation in how to approach it to make sure that they get the information that they needed to pursue those who were illegally running those homes. Thank you again for being proactive into really putting salaries out there, number one, to make sure that those people are finding their way home. And sometimes it's even harder for them to go back home. And if they decided they don't want to go, and that we will have a safety net here where we can actually help them transfer to a licensed, well-run other facilities. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Councilmember Harris.
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. Thank you, Councilmember Poston, for bringing this forward and staying on task with this. This is an important issue. My question is that Councilwoman Ellis had already just mentioned that there were 6 homes that was in Chandler that was expected, that was a part of the fraud. Have we, since then, what have our actions been in terms of those particular homes? And then how did we identify that it was 6 from Chandler?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Harris, we took the list that was released by the state of the clinics. And again, most of what we're learning is that most of the billing is taking place in a clinic setting, but the clinics have unregistered homes where they are placing people.
Got it.
So what we did is we ran the list that has been suspended or terminated through our database of ownership in Chandler, and that's how we were able to identify that these were homes that were owned by the same entity, and then went back to our list of registered homes and found that none of them were on that list. What we do is we've been sending the navigation team out. Again, we want to make sure that we're not impacting neighborhoods by people basically being displaced and wandering neighborhoods. And so the navigation team is monitoring from that standpoint. We have found at least a couple that appear to be vacant homes at this point, and then we have some that appear to be active. And so we will just continue to monitor. And as I said, we have had contact with one individual to date.
Were these homes rental homes, or does the owners know? Do you know the relationship between the tenant and the owner?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Harris, what I did find is the ones that we have identified were all listed as rentals.
Okay. And then my last question would be to you, is that my understanding that in terms of this fraud was happening at a higher level, a lot of the mid-level individuals or the spin-offs of many did not know that the fraud, because that's one thing I wanted to make sure I put out there, is that a lot of the fraud was at a higher level. It wasn't always the spin-off of multiple homes. So they could have, their LLC could have been mentioned in it, but it could have just been a spinoff of a spinoff. But they're able to track it a little bit easier because this is Medicaid fraud in terms of billing and things like that nature. But it was unfortunate to hear about the reports of possible people being taken out of their homes or being picked up off the streets and put in places and things like that. And so thank you for your work. Let us know how we can support we will work together as a community to get through this. Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Post, for bringing this up. I certainly appreciate it. So, and Leah, thank you. So I guess I'm struggling here. I hear a dozen or so homes that's impacted by this investigation. What's happening to the residents in there? Who's caring for them? And what is really going on? I hear you say monitoring, but what's going on with the resident? That's more important to me right now than the legal aspect, all the other activities happening. And I apologize if I missed it, but help me understand that.
Through the mayor, vice mayor, there actually are what we've identified as 6, potentially 7 homes specifically in Chandler. And at this point, it appears that a couple of them are vacant.
Okay.
You know, all we can do, we're treating this as a humanitarian issue dealing with homelessness, and that's
Right.
where my team is coming involved with it. So we're monitoring for people who are being displaced and put back into homelessness as a result of the suspension of payments to these homes. And so that's what we're doing right now is we're strictly monitoring. We don't have jurisdiction to do any enforcement of whether or not
Okay, so
services are
who's
being
doing
provided.
I guess my question is, who's doing that? Who's actually going to the home and saying there's 5 people in this home and they have to leave, or help me understand what's the mechanism here for those individuals?
Through the mayor, vice mayor, my understanding is the reason that people are being displaced is because the payments to those homes are being cut off.
Okay.
And those homeowners or companies are immediately displacing people to the street. There also is the 211 system that has been set up for people who encounter someone or is looking for a family member. We know that they're getting about 250 calls a day based that are related to this issue. So I think it's a combination of things. We also have understood that the way that some of these homes have been identified was when there was other illegal activity happening or there have been deaths that have occurred. And so, of course, the police department is responding if there's a crime or someone dies. And through that, they're determining that some of the homes, and then the police department is turning it over investigation to the FBI or whoever the appropriate authority would be. So it's a combination of things. It's a combination of the state suspending and terminating license. It's a combination of law enforcement and the FBI being called out for various reasons. And then again, from our standpoint, it's if people get displaced and are experiencing homelessness, that's when we're coming into it.
All right. Yeah, it still seems squishy here. I'm trying to figure out who in the state is actually shutting these homes down and going in there and saying, let's move these people. What's the mechanism? Well, can you get back with us if you find more information? I know this just happened recently, but I'm really concerned about who's taking care of these people. And monitoring is one thing. I'm just curious who's got the point on this, I guess.
Through the mayor, vice mayor, Orlando, so Solari is the point when there is a home that's
Okay.
determined. And so we are in communication with Solari. If
Got
they
it.
come
All
across
right.
any Chandler residents, they will be
So
contacting us.
Solari is the one that's engaged from the standpoint of the state empowering to do some of this stuff. Now I got to connect the dots. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
A little slow today, but we got it now.
Councilmember Poston.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to clarify and to build off what the Vice Mayor was saying, you had mentioned earlier there are some homes that have been identified, but it looks as if there are still residents being cared for in those homes. Is it accurate to say that those residents would just be displaced at any particular notice, that there's no one actually coming in informing you when those homes have been shut down or when those residents have been released on the street? It's just sort of happening at some point when they potentially aren't, the group home isn't getting their payment anymore? That it could happen at any time?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Poston, that's exactly right. That's exactly what is happening. As the investigations continue, people get suspended or terminated. They are shutting homes down and displacing people. We've also understood that there are some homes that are trying to re-license under other types of licensing. So it's a very convoluted situation, and it's one that will just continue to develop. And we're just there to respond if we start seeing people get displaced.
So at this point, your team is just kind of keeping an eye on those homes just to make sure and see if they just happen to have people that have been displaced from those homes at any given time.
Through the mayor, Councilmember Poston, that's exactly right. What we don't want to see is that all of a sudden 5 or 8 or 10 people are displaced on the street and literally are sitting out in a neighborhood with no place to go.
Right, which is why this would be part of an ongoing issue and isn't going to wrap up anytime soon.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Leah.
Councilmember Ellis.
Thank you, Mayor. The question that was asked concerning who is at that highest level to even shut those homes down and doing things like that, it would have to be Access, because they are the one who have given the contract to the clinic. And then the clinic then find those homes or those owners of the homes and place the people in them. And then supposedly the clinic is the one who has to manage the care of that client. So at this point, the third party payer, which is the home, is going to go back to the clinic and say, come and pick up your clients, because if you're not paying me, because you're not getting paid from Access, so therefore I can't continue taking care of your patients. So that's where the loop is. It's going to have to eventually go back to Access for Access to deal with those clinics that Access have contract with, eligible contract, but it's those clinics now that have to really answers why do they go into bed with these homes knowing that they are not going to continue to provide care for those clients at those homes. I also heard that those homes, in order to keep those clients there that are picked up from the reservation, they provide them with drugs, they provide them with other things so they don't run away, so that they can stay there. Are there any of the one in Chandler truly, because they are sober living, they want to drink, they want to continue and go out and get drugs? The monitoring that we are doing at that level where we all cannot be any further than that. So when our navigators are encountering anybody that they encounter, are we seeing those people are still abusing alcohol or they still abusing drugs?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Ellis, we've only encountered the one person. I will say that the one person appeared to be intoxicated. So in that situation, yes. Now that person wanted to go into treatment. So hopefully that will be the situation and the person will begin detox again. But that's the only one we've seen. We have heard the same stories. We have heard exactly what you're saying, that when some of the homes there is no services being provided. There drugs and alcohol and again, just like what all of us are reading in the media, those are the stories that we have heard as well.
And so our goal here as a city is not to make the situation worse, but it's not really to fix it either, because that's out of our hands. And the only way that we can actually interfere in this kind of like system or what's going on right now is to just make sure, as you said, we are there as a safety net to help those who were already homeless not becoming homeless again, and then try to access care for them if they're willing, because it's really fee for service, and it's also they have to want to be served in order for us to provide the care for them.
Through the mayor, Councilmember Ellis, that is correct. And then reunification, if it is someone who came from another place, came from another state.
So Lee, I'm going to ask that you just keep us posted. We're just repeating the same information, and you've shared what you know. So if you please just keep us posted with this, and we look forward to seeing how we can support you and the team to support our community. So thank you.
Thank you.
Council, that's all of our agenda tonight. And Thursday we'll be back for our consent agenda, again, the budget and one other item. So have a good evening. Look forward to seeing you all on Thursday. That concludes our meeting.